There we go. All right, so to be able to animate this and sort of animate it in a particular direction, we're going to use the range selector over top of lines and then set the lines as the track mat for this particular layer. Again, this is the layer that has the type on it. It's just draw everything, draw something every day. Just nice message. And then it's got a simple kind of photoshopped background of a piece of paper. So I took the time to mask that text out, but once that's done, it's on a separate layer. That way you can just have a mask onto this layer by itself. I'm going to just start with the pen tool and we'll just do the word draw. And if you want to just follow along with me once, I'll kind of do the demo of how this kind of functions or works, and then we can kind of step by step it together. So I've already got my fill and stroke information set up here because I've done this once already. If you want to make sure that your kind of fill information is turned off, we don't want the fill, we just want it to have an outline. So I've turned the stroke on and I've turned up the thickness of the line here, but that can be variable. You can always choose a different thickness at any time. Now I don't have any layers selected in my composition here. And again, I'm in the pre-comp. I don't want any layers selected because that way it's going to draw a new layer. And if for some reason it's not letting you do that, you can always go to new and shape layer. We're just making a new shape layer with an outline. So I'm just going to trace these letters with the pen tool. And as you can tell, this kind of thickness of the line is really pretty bulky, which is okay. And whoops, let me start where I actually wanted to start writing. So it would sort of start it down here. And I want it to kind of curve around a little bit. And if you're at all familiar with the pen tool, essentially you can just click and drag to be able to draw curved lines and then just kind of drag it around until it makes the shape that you want. I think that's the simplest way that we could draw this. Now I want this to be all kind of one line, as I'm just going to go over the word draw and kind of the direction or area of which I kind of wrote it in. So I want it to kind of curl around this R here, and we'll come over this way. And my lines are getting way too thick, but that's okay. Hold down the space bar to move it around a little bit. And then let's get this to kind of curve over the letter A here. I try to come down from the top. Now, it really doesn't matter what this looks like because we're going to just convert this into a mask to make it kind of curve into the shape that we want it to have. So that would be plenty to be able to draw over the word draw. Now, this may be a little bit thicker than I need it to be. I just want it to sort of cover up as much of the text or word that I can. And if I need to change or edit this, you can always go in with your pen tool and kind of make some edits, which is totally fine. There we go. That looks like it's covering up most of the text, which is fine. Once I've done that, all I need to do is go into this shape. We're going to do a couple things. The first thing is I'm going to just drill down on this so that I can open up my layer here. I'm going to scroll up here so we can just see just the area that we're working with. And under contents, I want to add a trim paths feature. Now, trim paths is going to shorten the length of this line. And this is where we're going to use kind of this range selector. This is very similar to the range selector that you'd see on a type layer. But the advantage of this is that you can kind of see how it draws itself through the length of this. And what we want to do is trying to figure out which way that we want it to draw so that it is not revealed at first and then reveals itself. And that looks about right there. So I'm actually probably not going to have to animate anything except for this end feature. And the way that this range selector works is essentially at the start of the line, which is this circle here. This little point has an extra little circle on it. That's my origin point. That's where I started. That's 0%. And then the full length of this line is 100%. And all that this does when you extend or change these numbers is draw out the line through the percentage of the total length of that line. I know that's kind of a weird way to think about it because it's such a mathematical way to say this is the 100% of the line, but that's kind of how the range selector works. And then if you have a percentage, just a smaller percentage, let's say 5, and then I use this offset feature, that's just going to move that 5% around the length of that line from 0 to 100. So it just kind of goes down the length of that line. Now we're not going to use that offset feature, and I'm just going to turn this from 0. So I'm going to keyframe from 0 over to 10 seconds at 100. And then that will just sort of reveal this over time. Now, wherever this line overlaps, that's where I'm going to be able to start seeing this layer. And to be able to set that up, I just need to go down to my next layer down, which is this drawing something everyday feature. And I'm going to click on this right here where it says track matte. If you don't see track matte, you can switch toggles and modes until you see track matte, and then choose alpha matte shape 1. When I do that, essentially this shape disappears. You don't see anything. This layer is turned off. I've already queued this up so that it will look like it's kind of drawing the word as it goes through the length of that. Now this may seem like kind of a slow drawing, right? Because it's 10 seconds to just write the word draw. But that's kind of the breakdown of being able to use this trim paths feature. I could get very more fine-tuned if I used a smaller line. If you have multiple lines, you can do it in multiple lines. And then just make sure that you go from 0% on the end and then to 100 as it's sort of drawing it along the length of that little line that we put in there. Okay, I'm gonna pause the recording there. I realize there's a question.